Welcome into Rounding the Bases.
Round the bases. Everybody knows Joe Goldberg. It's around the bases. Everybody knows Joe Goldberg.
Hey, everybody, welcome into another episode of Rounding the Bases, presented by Community America Credit Union, invested in you. I can't believe, we're into 2025 here. I think I've heard that song, by the way, from the artist A.Y. Young a million times, or however many podcast episodes it has appeared on. I don't think it has appeared anywhere else. It has not hit the charts yet in terms of being a top song, but I'm really excited for my guest today for many reasons. Also in part because I could see her in the virtual green room dancing to my song. So that makes me feel good that we're setting a tone. We're setting a little energy. I say it over and over again on this podcast. It's all about connections and networking, which is always a great segue to my partners over at Chief of Staff Kansas City. Whether you're in Kansas City, you're in Cleveland like my guest, or anywhere around the country, they are a phenomenal resource if you're looking for a job, if you're looking to be placed, to place someone, or just a great resource. Great, laid back, young, hip, energetic office that I love partnering with on culture and other topics. So check them out, chiefofstaffkc.com, making connections that matter. My connection today comes from a previous guest. I love you could build a family tree of this guest introduced me to this person, to this person, to this person. It's what enables me to have a wide array of guests without ever feeling like I'm running out, because I think everybody has a story to tell. So a tip of the cap, a thank you to Miriam Schulman, a previous guest that I had in 2024. She was amazing, as today's guest will be as well. On Rounding the Bases, I'm joined by a woman putting solopreneurs in the front row of their own success. Her name is Jen Lehner, a digital marketing guru who you can find on the cutting edge of all things automation and social media. As an up-to-the-minute strategist who is unafraid of holding back, she has landed atop countless best of business lists, empowering her to bring all the solutions, but none of the fluff, for unsung small business heroes who are destined to become entrepreneurial VIPs. I am so happy right now to bring into Rounding the Bases, Jen Lehner. Jen, how are you?
I'm doing great. And man, what a great intro. Thank you so much.
Well, I told you in advance, if you like it, well, I don't know if I said it quite like this. If you like it, Ashley gets the credit because she is the brains behind so much of what I do. If you don't like it, I'll take the blame for it. But nobody ever says they dislike it. She's very creative.
Job, Ashley.
But I think that really sums you up too. I mean, the other thing that I think sums you up, and we don't know each other, but we're just chatting some beforehand, and Miriam introduced us, is I sense from watching all your videos, and you have a lot of content out there, high energy. Is that a fair assessment? Because you look to me like you're always bouncing off the walls in the best of ways.
Yeah, it's funny. I do run, my energy does run pretty high. In fact, I'm on a treadmill right now, but I turned it off right before we jumped off.
You can do it in the treadmill if you want, as long as you have your breath.
it makes a noise, but like,
Yeah.
I'm a bit fidgety and I got to keep moving.
By the way, anybody that sees this on YouTube will see we're both standing, so I get a little fidgety too, but mine is not moving. I just move and sway a little bit. I don't know where to start with you, because I told you this before, you do so much, which is awesome. I do believe that you have figured out how to streamline that process so that for all the things you're doing, it's not like you're having to work 24 hours a day. When we all try to figure this out, I was saying to you before that you start chasing so many lanes, right? Mm-hmm. You can feel like you're chasing that squirrel, you're chasing your tail. But I think you've uncovered and figured out how to do it all without driving yourself nuts. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, I can figure out a way to make myself nuts, whether I'm working a lot or not. But but yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of a lot of lessons along the way, and also trying out on a lot of different hats and moving in a lot of different lanes, chasing a lot of shiny objects. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I do, that's kind of my jam now, is like I've streamlined, and I like to show other people how to streamline and just be more efficient so they can do more of the stuff that they love and less of the stuff that they can't stand.
And I think when you unlock that, and I don't know, like my story might be easier in the sense of, okay, well, you're a baseball broadcaster and then you start speaking and podcasts and books. And so like all these lanes start to develop. And I think for other people that are listening, it's like, wait a minute, this is what I do. What else is there? Personally, I found the exploration in all of the different avenues to be really fulfilling, at the same time maddening. But I guess my point is that we all have other branches to that tree. We all have other things that we could be doing and leveraging just based on our skills, our talents, our network, whatever it might be. I don't know that everybody knows how to unlock those. What do you think about that? Because I think so many of us, now maybe the entrepreneurs that are listening would understand this, but I think so many of us don't tap into all of our potential, that we don't find what else we have to offer. We get stuck in that one lane without exploring others. And I'm curious how much of that is a part of your journey. You know, what you didn't obviously start with this. I'm guessing that your goal, whenever you started your professional career, you had dreams as a kid, was not all of this. You didn't know what all of this was. Most of us don't.
Exactly. You know, yeah, I stumbled into all of it. But it's interesting because it was a real frustration to me because, I mean, I sort of learned when I decided to move back into the workforce as my kids were starting to go to school. And I was like, well, I don't know what I can do, but I know that I'm good at marketing. And then I just started sort of freebie coaching people and showing them how to do things with social media and stuff like that. And then I'm like, wait, people will pay me. And then I started doing consulting, and then turns out I was making people a lot of money. So my dance card filled up real quick. And I was like, wow. But then it was sort of like, well, it really felt like no matter how much I charged, I wasn't making enough to justify the hours that I would spend on each client, because even if our time together was only an hour, all this was turned on the other 23 hours. Even when I slept, I would dream about my clients, you know? So it was like, you know, so then I learned about creating online courses, and being able to reach thousands of people, and have them purchase these online programs. And I didn't actually have to be there. And that was sort of like a huge shift. But the thing is, in terms of fulfilling our potential, I sort of feel like I could change lanes. Like I could go from teaching people how to use social media to teaching people how to grow an offshore team of virtual assistants to AI, which I'm talking about now, because all the people, they're still kind of my same audience. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can do that, but it bothered me, right? Like, so it's funny that you say that, because it bothered me that, that I couldn't really pick a lane. I didn't want to say like, this is it. And this is only it. But a lot of people will tell you like, you have to really, really niche down. But I sort of think as long as the people you're talking to are still, that's going to benefit them, that it's okay. And I think I maybe went off track in answering your question. I don't know if that was really the answer you're looking for, but
I'm never looking for anything too specific, as long as we have a good discussion, and we
Yeah.
do. I may not even, I don't even remember exactly how I phrased it, but it's really interesting to me. And I'm guessing too that if you are, well, we already established that you are that high energy, probably don't sit still too well. I mean, you're on a treadmill for goodness sakes right now. That this has to satisfy and fill a lot of, I would say, your cup. I think it's probably a lot of cups. This satisfies all those cups, or probably quite a bit of it too. And I think it was interesting, your point about going to bed dreaming of your clients. Like that's passionate energy to me. That's like, that's when I think, you know, you have your sweet spot. Because if you're going to bed and what's keeping you up at night is work, you know, I don't want to do that type of thing. But when you're going to bed dreaming about your clients, you love what you do, right?
Yeah. I mean, for sure. I'm definitely very passionate, or I certainly wouldn't be at it after all these years. But yeah, it's very consuming in a good way.
Yeah.
You remember? Did you see Hamilton?
Of course. Yeah.
So remember that part where he's like, the song was like, I write like I'm running out of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
That just really hit me, because I was like, that is the best feeling in the world, right? Like, just the bet when you are just so into it that you really almost just can't think about anything else, because you're, I don't stay in that place. You know what I mean? I
Sure.
definitely don't stay in that zone. But when I'm in that place where I am just consumed by it, it's my favorite place to be. That's when, like, you're in your flow.
It's a great place to be. And I guess there's a little something about, for me, it's finding the balance between racing time, because there's always more to do, and then balancing it with slow down and enjoy the ride. That's a hard thing to do.
No, it is. I mean, that's what all the talk these days is about, mindfulness. I mean, not that it's a new thing. I mean, it goes back to Buddhism and whatever, but like, it's and not only enjoy the moment, but to be able to look back for a second and be like, all right, okay, like, I did some stuff, let's enjoy that accomplishment and recognize it before we look at that big gap that is between where we are now and maybe the next goal, because then that puts you in a state of constant discontent, malcontent, discontent. Yeah.
Discontent.
Yes. Thank you.
I think, no, either actually, I think work.
I think a person is a malcontent and the state of being is discontent, but someone will.
Don't allow that discontent turn you into a malcontent.
Yes, I think that's right.
Something like that. This is probably a hard question to answer, but of all the things that you're doing, is there something that you enjoy the most? I mean, I get that the big picture, all of it fits together, but what are those favorite moments for you?
Yesterday, this is kind of hilarious, but I'm so excited about AI right now that I can't even, every 5 minutes in the newsletters that I read and everything, the stuff that I'm seeing that is going to make our lives easier and help us be more creative and more productive and all these things that I look, there's nobody in my office, but I want to say, like, look at this. Oh my gosh. And of course I could jump on a live stream, and I do, and I'll share it with my audience, but like, really, I want more than that. And my husband is sick of hearing it. Like, he's just not that into it. So I was like, you know what? I called the library and I rented a room for $40, and then I ran a few ads to fill it up. And then I showed up, because this wasn't sponsored by the library. Like, they don't really do that. So this was just my own thing. And I went in, it didn't sell anything. It was completely free. And I got up on stage for 1 hour, and like, none of them had heard about any of the things that I was showing them. So they were like jaw drop, right? Like, that's my favorite thing. Like, when I bring something and you're just like, well, that is incredible. And they were so excited and they were so happy and they had a million questions. But what's funny is that I also looked at this as like this is obviously an opportunity for me to test out my content. I do get something from it, right? Like, at some point, somebody in that room is going to call me and want to work with me, even though I didn't do any kind of pitch. So there's always that benefit. But I also thought, I don't run my own ads. So I was like, I haven't been in LinkedIn in a while, and I know that they have incorporated AI into their ad management and running ads. So I'm going to go run an ad. I'm just going to spend $150 again, because this is a free thing, $40 for the room. And then Facebook, I spent $100, $150 LinkedIn, $100 Facebook. I just thought about it, and I was like, oh, let me go check and see whatever happened with that ad. Well, I did not do $150 budget. I did $150 a day. So I had been charged $3,300. I got 19 leads, and they were, I don't want to use the word worthless, but in terms of my business, like, I wasn't, normally if I run an ad, I'll be really specific about exactly who that person is, and I'll make sure it matches, the profile of the people who purchase my online courses or whatever, right? But all I needed was a warm body in Shaker Heights, Ohio, or Cleveland. That's it. And there was over 18. You know what I mean? So like, I spent $3,200 on a bunch. Anyway, it was, but you know what I have to say? It's like, even that, as painful as that was, that all these are like, and I don't mean this to be like corny or cliche, but like it really is the price of an education. Like I really
Yeah.
did learn. And in the end, that event, I would have paid, let's put it this way. I would have paid $3,500 to have the experience that I had yesterday because it was so fun.
Interesting.
And that's my favorite thing to do.
Just don't have a $3,200 experience again next time, and you learn from it.
Right.
But no, I mean, look, some lessons are more expensive to learn than others, but
Yeah.
I think you're constantly moving in the right direction. Let's hone in a little bit more on AI. And I've had a lot of different guests on this podcast about AI. Like I told you before we went on, there's no specific, like this is not any more of an AI podcast than it is a baseball podcast than it is.
Love it.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
certainly an entrepreneur's podcast, leadership podcast. I just like interesting stories that can inspire people. And I think that I could do an AI podcast once a week without even being an AI expert, because I think, I was talking to somebody at lunch yesterday, myself, who is an AI expert, and he believes he'll be a guest on a future show. He believes that AI will have a bigger impact on the world going forward than electricity did. And I'm not bringing that up to debate it or not. I'm just saying that if you make a statement like that, whether that becomes true or not, I believe it will. That's how big this is right now. Like I like to consider myself in terms of AI as more than just like the lowest level layman. I'm trying to use it as a good tool, but I also recognize that I'm barely scratching the surface, but I want to keep learning more. I think we have to embrace this. This is my opinion, because if you don't embrace it, and certainly our generation, I think we're probably close in age. Our generation, the Gen Xers, who are really becoming the new baby boomers, which kind of freaks me out a little bit. If we're not adjusting to that, then you better make sure your kids and your grandkids eventually are teaching you this stuff, because we're going to be left behind. It is part of the future that our grandkids, in my case, even if they don't exist yet, will know no other way. It'll be flowing through their blood and their brains in a way that whatever we had growing up, right? And so I'm curious your take on that, and really interested in the pivot that you've made, or at least the add-on that you've made, to recognize that this is something that fits into your repertoire and is something that could help everybody today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, I think you're exactly right. Whether we want to say it's as important as electricity or the steam engine or the internet itself. I mean, I would say that. I would say AI is at least as big as the internet was. And look at where we are now.
Yeah.
You remember Amazon started and we all were sort of chuckling like, yeah, people are going to buy books online, whatever, but anyway, so yes, so I 100% agree with you there. I think we're at a very interesting inflection point right now, because I have a brother who's a professor at a university, political science, and he's a complete Luddite. And the minute that I saw Chat GPT, I wanted to show it to him, and he just rolled his eyes and he was like, well, that won't affect my class because my essay class questions are very, very specific and whatever. And I was like, really? Give me one of your essay questions, And so we put it in there, and he was kind of like, he was kind of pissed, but excuse me, he was kind of mad. But the thing is, at this point that we're at right now, and universities and law schools are really dealing with this, is that the people who don't know, who really don't have a true understanding of what this is and what it means, are just looking at it as these folks, okay, in university, is like, it's a cheating tool, right? It's a cheating tool. And all of our young people they're not going to learn how to write, and they're not going to learn how to read. And this is going to dumb everybody down. That's one perspective. But then the other one is like, let's say you are a lawyer and you're at a law firm, and like, what is it? Why is it that it costs so much half the time, most of the time, all the time with a lawyer to get something done? It's because it takes so much time. Like, they have to read, everything is this thick, right? Like, well, now that attorney can dump all of that into whatever large language model, and that it will synthesize the information for you. The same thing for the law student. Doesn't mean the law student isn't going to learn the precedents or the history or whatever. It just means they're going to be able to learn more faster, right? Like, with more ease. They're going to be able to cut through all that stuff like a hot knife through butter. I mean, it's quite amazing. And creativity and, the things people are creating. And so you sort of have people on two ends of the spectrum. On the left, you have people who are in complete denial saying AI can't do my job. AI, I don't have time to learn that junk. And then on the other side, you have people who are panicked, completely panicked. They believe in AI, and they also believe that AI is going to take their job and is going to make them bankrupt. I think everybody sort of understands at this point that AI may not take your job, but someone who knows how to use AI is going to take your job, right? And so to your point, it is really important because the beautiful thing is this isn't for techie people. I'm actually not a techie person. I'm more of a creative person. And all AI means is that we can communicate with this machine in a very human way to get stuff done. We just put in words. We literally just put in words. And for anybody who hasn't seen an example of Sora yet, I would just search it. Just search Sora, and you will see the most incredible video in the most high definition that is absolutely mind-blowing. And when Tyler Perry saw this, he shut down his $800 million studio that they were building in LA because he saw the future of what's happening. Because literally the prompts will say like, spaceman with red knit crochet over his helmet is walking on the moon and it's desolate and bright. That's the prompt. And then you'll see the example if you go look at Sora of this video that I'm talking about, or a little munchkin. I don't know what they typed in, little blue munchkin man or something. And it's Pixar. I mean, it looks exactly like Pixar. Yeah. So from our end, really, it's not that big a deal. All people have to do is go to Perplexity, go to Claude, go to ChatGPT. My very favorite right now is Notebook LM. Just search for it. It's free right now, and it's a Google thing. And then just start typing in words, and soon, and that's all it takes. That's all it takes. It's not like we have to learn coding or anything like that. And just by doing that, people are going to be so far ahead of the game. But I want to give you one interesting use case scenario that we can all relate to. So
I'm opening all these tabs, by the way, as you're going to Sora. I just Googled Sora AI. I'm in Perplexity, Notebook LM. And I'll encourage everybody as you're listening to this, if you're not driving or on the treadmill, to check these out. I think just the exploration piece is a way to start to learn more, because those that are using this on the lowest level, maybe they're only using ChatGPT. Now you're getting some more information from Jen. I stopped your thought. Please continue.
Yeah. Well, also I want to add to that list because it's my really incredible. I call him my thought partner, Claude, Claude, Claude. I think it's Claude.ai, or just type in Claude. It'll come up. Phenomenal. But okay. So a couple of months ago, we had an election, and there was a lot of talk about the Project 2025. Don't worry, I'm not about to get political. I'm just saying that was very much talked about. Right. And people were denying it and people were freaking out over it. So I was like, and everybody kept, when they would mention it, they would preface it with the 800-page document. I downloaded it from their website. I stuck it into, I don't remember, let's say ChatGPT, and now I can have a conversation with it. And so I don't have to rely on any journalists to give me their perspective or deduction or whatever. I just go, what does this document say about education? What does this document say about, whatever. Yeah. And so it's wonderful. Or let's talk about you, Joel. Before we got on, you said you had this you have a giant, you've been doing so much, you have so much content, you have a giant library of content. The other day I went and took 50 of my podcast episodes. I stuck it into Notebook LM. And by the way, when you use Notebook LM, it allows you to work within that notebook. So unlike ChatGPT, if I stick all my content in there, I'm not training Google's model. It's within my notebook. Okay. The other thing, you hear a lot of people saying, well, you can't really trust AI because they hallucinate. Yes, but there are ways to control that. And in this case, we know what the source is because we're giving it the source, my 50 podcasts. So I go in and I say, hey, I mean, there's a million things I could ask it, right? But I can talk to my content and I can say, tell me the most interesting quotes from all my guests that relate to whatever, right? Because how am I going to search that? That's going to save me like days, weeks, whatever, however long it would take me to have to go back and read transcripts and all that. It just does it for you. And this is very hard for me to I can't demonstrate it, but you must play with it. And you've probably heard of it already, but there is a feature within Google LM that there's a man, and we're going to say a man and a woman. It's an AI man and woman voice that does what they call a deep dive podcast. Okay. They're as real can be sounding. They sort of talk over each other. They laugh. And these two voices will have a conversation about anything you want them to have as it relates to the source you put in there. Okay. Another example I'm going to give you about Notebook LM and ways to think about cool ways to use it. So one of my very favorite, I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but one of my favorite books that I buy for all of my clients, and this is why I feel okay about it, because I've purchased this book at least 50 times, and it's Donald Miller's Story Brand. Okay. And he teaches, have you read it?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. Yeah. So it's all about how to land your brand messaging, and especially on your website. Okay. So I got the PDF of this book and I stuck it into Notebook LM. And again, it's not going to go out into the world. It stays in my notebook. I stuck it into Notebook LM. Then I had a client whose website needed help. So I stuck the link to their website into my notebook. And what I said to my two podcast hosts was, have a conversation about my client's website according to Donald Miller's framework. Okay. They're paid Donald Miller consultants, like they're Story Brand certified. Yep. This is what they do. Okay. I put it in there. I almost fell off my treadmill when I heard the conversation. It was so spot on. And they find things, or any of the large language models if you're a person that writes proposals, you put in your winning proposals for the last 2 years, your failing proposals. And then you ask the AI, what's the thread between the winning ones that the losers don't have? You know what I mean? It's like, it's just, we're only limited by our own imagination when it comes to these tools, because right now people tend to think of it as just sort of like a crappy writer. You know, ChatGPT will write something for you, but it's just not really that good, you know? But boy, it's so much more than that. And of course, we've seen the demos of the graphics and all of that. So it's just this kind of stuff, to get back to your question. It's just this kind of stuff that makes me excited to show to people how they can just save hours of their life using these tools.
Just incredible. And as you know, I was telling you, I was opening up some of these tabs, and well, to go back a little bit, first off, you know, the whole pushback from, I think that, you know, your brother sounds like a lot of college professors, but that was the initial panic. And then I think some have come to the realization that, look, the cat's out of the bag. So whether we like it or not, this is where we're going. How can it make us better now? And so that doesn't mean you still can't teach kids or whoever, students, doesn't have to be kids, how to write or how to whatever it is. There are more efficient and better ways to do it. So instead of fighting it, embrace it. This is what happens with evolution. This is what happens with technology. I remember, I'll get off topic for just a second, but I remember back in, I don't know, maybe like 2010 or something like that. And I'm sitting on the plane. It's my probably third year with the Royals. We're flying to wherever, who knows, maybe to Cleveland to face your then Indians, now the Guardians. And
go Guards.
I leave. Yeah, well, good year for them and for us too. But that's fine. I love Cleveland. By the way, you're the second Cleveland guest I've had. The first would be Tom Hamilton, longtime voice of your Cleveland Guardians.
Yes.
And one of my favorite people in baseball. Anyway, I lean over to my producer at the time, and I say to him, and he was older than me, still is. And I said, you know, I think, because Twitter was starting to become big. And I said, I don't know that it's big anymore, but I said, hey, I think we could do an in-game segment interacting and engaging with fans. You know, a lot of people are starting to follow me on Twitter, and I could have them ask questions and we could answer them on the air. So, you know, what nowadays would be considered a pretty basic idea. And I remember him saying to me, and I'm not going to mention his name, and it's not a knock on him, but I remember more representative of you know, status quo versus change, I think. And he said, no one is going to be on their phone looking at Twitter and watching a game at the same time. Now, that sounds like the most preposterous thing, and I think you would admit to that now.
Yeah.
But sometimes we have to be able to look a little forward or a lot forward, and that's what's going on with all this. That was my first point. The second point, and we'll get to the baseball theme questions in a moment, is as you were talking about Sora, and these are, by the way, new tools to me as you're talking them, so I can't wait till we're done, and I'm going to get on. I've got a million ideas already popping into my head. And so on Sora, it's openai.com. It took me to openai.com/index/Sora, but you, again, Google it, you'll find it. And first is like a woman walking down the street, and it just says prompt. A stylish woman walks down a Tokyo street filled with warm, glowing neon and animated city signage. She wears a black leather jacket, a long red dress, and black boots, and carries a black purse. And I'm watching like it. That's what I'm seeing. Or prompt, historical footage of California during the gold rush. And like
That's incredible.
Like ridiculous. And so I'm sitting there looking at that in perplexity and Notebook LM. I'm thinking, I want to put 50 podcasts into Notebook LM, and I want to see if it comes up with a theme. I want to see if it comes up with favorite quotes. I want to see, and suddenly this gets back to final question before the baseball themed ones. This gets back to so much of what you're doing, because as I sit there and think, boy, as an entrepreneur, I could monetize all of these things in a different way, but oh my gosh, where do I start? How do I do it? Suddenly there's an ebook, there's favorite quotes, there's a giveaway to people after a speech, there's and I mean,
workbook, checklist,
right? And I'm just scratching 1% of it, right? I mean, how energizing and amazing is that? Not just my story, to know how much is out there, the endless opportunities.
I love it. That's it. It's just, and that's the way, that's what I want people to sort of shift into, not the dystopia and the scary stuff, like it's here, and this is going to create tremendous opportunity for each of us. And as we have learned through, our lifetimes, is that, I mean, if you look at, like, if you could go back to your old self, like we would say, buy Google stock, buy Apple stock, right? Like, because we just didn't see it coming. And this maybe isn't so much a stock thing as much as like, but just grabbing that opportunity, that brass ring, because there is always a payoff to being an early adopter like this. Right. And there just is. So, and the beauty is you don't need anybody to teach you this. All you have to go is type words into these things, and you will automatically be learning. And if you don't know what to say, you ask the AI what to say, right? So let's say you want AI to help you come up with a greatest hits episode. So you say to the AI, hey, I want to do this, anniversary episode that celebrates my last 50 or my 50 best podcasts. But what is the best way for me to prompt you to get that information? And then the response will be, ask me these questions, so you don't, because there's a lot of people selling like prompt kits and all that. No, that's garbage. You don't need that. You just, because all you have to do is ask the
explore.
Yeah. And it'll tell you. Mm-hmm.
By the way, if you want, and this will be in the show notes, and I'll say it again at the end, I always do, but if you want to learn more about Jen's business and very clearly her expertise can really help anybody in whatever they're doing. JenLehner.com, Lehner, JenLehner.com. It'll be in the show notes. Let's get to the baseball themed questions. Sure. I mean, you could talk about your Cleveland Guardians if you want. I've got nothing against them. I'm a fan, and I've spent many nights, many rain delays, by the way, in Cleveland. That seems to happen a lot, but it's not a baseball question.
We're not known for our great weather, just so.
No, being right there on the lake. And yes, anyway, it's not a baseball question. It's a baseball themed question. In your long career, what's the biggest home run that you've hit?
It was, this felt so monumental because it triggered so many other things, right? It was sort of the domino. And that was, I was out for a walk, and I was listening to Gary Vaynerchuk. You know who he is, right? Yep. I was listening to Gary Vaynerchuk being interviewed by James Altucher, who also has a big podcast. And it was like a Sunday afternoon, and he was like, I have an idea. Anybody who starts a podcast right now and publishes 3 episodes, I'm going to come on your podcast. And then James Altucher said, I will too. And I was like, oh, I wanted to do a podcast at some point, not today, but okay. So I turned around, I went home, I did a podcast. I had to really work hard and harass him on Twitter, I tweeted clips of him promising that he would do this. Like, are you going to honor your promise? He came on my podcast. And he stayed for an hour, and then they asked me if I would go on his podcast. And then after that, I could get any podcast in the world on my podcast. I mean, anybody. I've had everybody. I've had Seth Godin and all of the people who are important in my niche have come on my podcast. So that just got me a lot of name recognition. So I was able to grow kind of quickly, from that.
Yeah, that's super cool. The podcast, by the way, is the Front Row Podcast. So check that out. And well, that's the whole theme with everything, right? The Front Row. You've got a great app. You've got it's just everything is so well branded and so well put together.
Thank you.
Which means, and we already referenced this a little bit before, that there are, whether they be at the expense of $3,200 or something else, there are swings and misses along the way. What's the biggest swing and miss that you have taken, and what did you learn from it? I hope it was the mistake yesterday, but I'm guessing there are others.
It was definitely the mistake yesterday. That's the most recent painful one. There's 100 others,
of course,
at least, but one that I learned a big lesson from was when I wanted to do online courses. I decided my first course was going to be, because I was teaching people how to use social media. I was going to pick realtors because they're easy to reach, and so many of them had bad social media at the time. And but I know nothing about real estate. I could care less about real estate. I just did it. So I spent all this time, really weeks, maybe months, creating all this content for a course. Lesson number one, never do that. Test your offer first before you create the course. Number one. Number two, I learned that realtors this was completely all wrong, because if they weren't successful already in real estate, they couldn't afford my course because they weren't selling any real estate yet. And if they were, they already had a team doing their social media. So it was like, duh. But it was a big lesson because, well, for a lot of reasons.
Yeah. Very interesting. Well, we get these ideas in our head and they sound great until they're not. So, and
I wasn't passionate about it. It was really forced. You know what I mean? Why would I do that? I don't, it was stupid.
Yeah. Round peg, square hole, or whatever that thing is. Okay. Last one on these small ball. What are the little things that add up to big results for you?
In my world, it's we have systems set up. So the systems are huge, and the systems allow me to reach out to my community and surprise and delight them at any given time. Like, if you've been in my community for a year, you'll get surprised with a bot that asks you to choose your anniversary gift, right? And then it automatically gets fulfilled, and they're not expecting it. So we do little things like that. I would say consistency, showing up consistently. And that means, just in outreach, or I might just call someone or whatever, or DM them, and then consistent content creation.
Which is hard to do, because sometimes it's not even so much the ideas. At least for me, it's, I don't know, the energy, I'm not up for it. And it takes a lot of discipline. It really does. But I know it matters too. I think consistency in everything matters, right? That's true in diet. That's true in working out. That's true in whatever aspect of life.
Consistency is king. Yeah.
Building your personal relationships, your spouse, your whatever it is. And I'm not saying I'm an expert on any of it, but it applies to everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard.
I have four final questions as we round the bases, and these, kind of come up from some of our research or whatever, something that I might find fun or interesting. And so I certainly could tell everybody that you are the Charleston College Woman Entrepreneur of the Year, that your mastermind, the Front Row, is named one of the top 10 Facebook groups to join before you quit your job. I could throw all those out there. And I think everybody that's listened already understands how good you are at what you do. But I want to ask you something completely unrelated. I saw question number one, that you were voted class clown in high school. So you were already getting a little bit of an image of the high school version of Jen. Tell me about that.
About being class clown?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I always think that's a great compliment. I don't know if we had an award for that, but I'm pretty sure I would have been in the running.
Yeah, I was nominated for, oh God, I was nominated also for the Christmas Spirit Award, and I was like, "You guys, I'm Jewish." Like, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know how much trust I have in that voting body, but I mean, I was. My big thing was like I always got moved in class because I was always talking.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, we're chatterboxes, right? We like to talk to people, so
Yes.
that even happened in college, like in my Spanish class. That was humiliating. Like the college professor made me move from my friend that I was constantly chatting with. So yeah, I was silly. There's no specific, I didn't do like, I didn't like, put the principal's, car on the front lawn or anything like that. I didn't do anything. I just am
Just having
goofy, I
fun.
guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I never got the Christmas award for sure, but maybe with the last name of Goldberg, they understood that I was not included in that.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm always amazed at people that even know my name will say, "You're Jewish." Well, I mean, I don't think I'm related to Whoopi Goldberg, so yes. Anyway, either you know or you don't, I guess. Second
Right.
question, as we round the bases, this is a fun one too. See, Ashley digs up all this good stuff. And I am seeing that you are a fan or obsessed with all things Bollywood.
Oh, totally. Yes. When we
Where'd
lived
that
in,
come from?
I don't know, but I do remember we lived in Toronto about 25 years ago, and they had a Bollywood channel, and you couldn't, there was no transcripts. I mean, there was no dubbing.
Yeah.
But like I would just watch it just for hours. My kids were really little, like babies. And my husband would be like, how are you watching this? You don't know what they're saying, but like you can follow the arc of the story. They're all the same. And I just love the dancing. Oh my God, I love the music. I love everything about the Indian culture. Like my bucket list is to go to an Indian wedding. Actually, um, my the my friend slash lady who does my Facebook ads is from India, and she invited me to go last summer, but to a wedding actually, and I couldn't go. But anyway, yeah, love Bollywood. Man, Ashley is on it.
Oh, she doesn't miss anything, trust me, and I'm very grateful for that. I have not been to India either. Although my parents went over there, and there's like pictures of my mom in a sari, and they went to a wedding, and so that's what I'm picturing you doing whenever that day ends up coming, right?
I hope so. And for my 50th birthday, my husband threw me a surprise birthday party at this beautiful restaurant here in Cleveland, and they had it wasn't an Indian restaurant, but they decorated it all like Bollywood, and he had Indian dancers come. We had this amazing Indian food. It's like, yeah, I'm into it. So
Well done by your
help me
husband.
manifest that trip to the wedding.
Yeah. Okay, the fourth question will be more serious, but let's go with the third one. A little bit of a similar theme because you just referenced it, living in Toronto, one of my favorite cities, by the way.
Me too.
Certainly of the whatever we go to 26, 27 cities in the country, because New York has 2 teams, Chicago has 2 teams, whatever that number is. Toronto is one of my favorite in the big leagues. I love it. I feel like it's this combination of New York meets Chicago, meaning it's the diversity of New York, but a little bit of a slower, maybe cleaner Chicago
Nicer,
feel
friendlier.
to it. I love Toronto, but you've lived all over the place: Carolina, Georgia, Texas, Boston, Philippines, Africa, Seattle, Toronto, Myrtle Beach, and Mississippi. Did you have a favorite place, or I don't know where you lived in Africa, but what stood out to you? What left that great impression?
Um, I really loved all the places. I think I would have been happy to stay in Toronto forever. But it
Cleveland
really,
cheaper.
yeah, Cleveland is definitely cheaper, but I came here kicking and screaming, but actually I really love it here too. And I've really, even Mississippi, when when we moved there, I was like, no way. I told my husband, there's just no way I'm moving to Mississippi again. If you're from Mississippi and listening to this podcast, my apologies. It's just that you have a reputation of having like the worst school system, and and being poor and all of that. But actually, for the time in our life that we were there, we were in this beautiful little town. We made great friends. We were there for about 4 years. And then we left right before our kids, really needed to get serious about school. So, like they were still like young, but starting into school. So I loved all the places. Great question, but I can't answer it. They're all great.
No, that is an answer, and it's a good answer. And I always say too, like, you go spend time anywhere around the world, and you get to meet the people in the community. Every city, every place is great. I truly
That's right.
believe that.
I do too. And I love change, right? Like
Mhm.
I didn't mind all that moving.
It's easy. You know, I feel like, say, at Cleveland, for instance, and I don't want to offend anybody there. I have a lot of friends there and I've spent a lot of time there, but it's really easy to say, oh, we have to go to Cleveland. And first off, if you don't get out of whatever area you're in, you don't get to meet people and see people. And yes, is Toronto or Chicago going to be higher on my list than Cleveland? Yeah, there's just going to be more to do when I walk out of my hotel. But as you start to explore and you start to meet people and you start to see what they're about, you understand that they're all great places. That probably sounds like a very political answer on my part, but I think it's also an encouragement to everyone to explore and to connect with others. All right, final question, the walk-off. Let's talk more about the business, a business that's constantly evolving, a business that I'm guessing that you never fully feel like you have it exactly where it should be or fine-tuned, although it looks like it from the outside. But I don't know that you're someone, just in getting to know you, that is ever going to be satisfied with the status quo. What's next on the list? I mean, maybe it's just continuing to focus on AI, but if you're going to constantly keep evolving, what's on the bucket list? What's on the to-do list in terms of business?
Well, I am, whenever you live launch a program, it's like this huge thing. And I took a break from that with my signature program. Like my biggest sort of revenue stream in my business is a program called Front Row CEO that teaches people how to hire and train their what I call perfect match virtual assistant. And it's not an AI assistant, like a human. And that's a huge effort. And I was, you get kind of tired, like when you launch and you're just kind of sick of it, So I have fallen in love with that, and I'm really excited about it. So that's going to happen first quarter, and then more live events. So I'm hosting a live event that sold out, and that is happening in at the end of that's happening at the end of the month. So.
Okay. Right. Already sold out. So there's always the next thing or the next things. And
That's
so
right.
For everyone that wants to learn again more, and I'll, by the way, I mean, between the podcast and all of the content that Jen is pushing out there and her team, you'll learn much more. We just did I think an elementary look at all of these different aspects. So we talked about Sora and Perplexity and Notebook LM and Claude, just to name a few. You start diving into Jen's content, you're going to learn a lot more about this. So do that at jenlehner.com. This is so awesome. I appreciate it, from one class clown to another. Thank you so much for spending time. And I can't wait to dive into all these resources and hopefully continue the conversation. Coffee or lunch on me when I'm in Cleveland next year, if you're willing to come downtown.
Yes.
or tickets to the game. You could even come and root for your Guardians against my Royals. That's fine. But I'm happy to do that and continue to connect.
I would love that. Thank you so much. This has been really so much fun, Joel.
Thanks, Jen.
It's around the bases. Everybody knows Joe Goldberg.